Day 3 of the voyage started with some drama. An emergency radio call was being placed nearby me.
But we have been very afraid.
Fishing vessel or sailing vessel, over?
Sailing vessel, French, going from La Corogne to Lisbon.
You now are passing the fishing vessel Moropa that is engaged in fishing operations. Please keep a wide berth. Sailing vessel Erispo. Fishing vessel Moropa ahead of you is engaged in fishing operation. Comply with call rec and give a wide berth.
We try to go away from the vessel.
According to my equipment, you are proceeding towards this fishing vessel. You need to keep a wide berth.
So now I can see him. So we go on the left of the boat. But he's close to us and he has no light up to now. Thank you very much for your help and your assistance.
A lot of drama on the radio. French guys were freaked out by a Spanish fishing vessel. I was really scared listening to them for their safety, but selfishly a little bit, hey, who's coming after me next? I wasn't on board either boat, so I'm not sure what happened. But I suspect poor situational awareness was a big contributor. A fisherman with poor lighting and a flaky IS and a crew just not realizing it's a fishing boat. He said, they're trying to drive me onto the land. They've been following me for 3 hours. I mean, it was really scary. Later, I found the distressed French vessel anchored in a bay. They did the right thing and took a break after a nervous evening. No proper passage can go in the record books until it has its share of upwind work. And we now have some upwind work. Got about 140 miles to go, and the weather guy must have gotten his numbers flipped because he said it was going to come from behind. It's coming from up front. Once I get on the tip of Spain, then I can fall off. It is, oh wow, it's only 77 miles. So call that 10 hours of upwind work. Usual frustration with me is I put up a sail, then I change my mind and put up another sail and change my mind again. I tried to do when I was going through the fishing fleet is put up the staysail so I could get nice and close to the wind. And when you put the staysail up, in order to not have the staysail forestay have too much sag, it's good to put the check stay on. There's the main. Well, I'm going to be busy for the next hour. There's a large throng of fishing boats working the continental shelf. Unlike last time, I'm going to try a new strategy. Sail a few more miles, but go around them. A second hazard exists. Yes, in 2,000 meters, some type of marker. I'll try to avoid that one as well. I was taught that the final arbiter of navigation is radar. Charts are great, but radar is what's actually out there. And this is a prime example. The mysterious mid-ocean yellow buoy is quite far away from its radar return. The red dot's the one you need to avoid. A little bit later in time, and the fishing vessels are keeping me on my toes. This is what it's like, 15 degrees of heel, according to the B&G. I want to give you a feel for what it's like on the inside in 15 degrees of heel. It does make cooking quite difficult because everything wants to roll downhill. When I let the furling line out, I let it out too quickly, and as a result, it's on the leeward side of the stanchion. So if I want to trim in more, I have to go up front and flick it over. You know, today's a proper sailing day. Let's go back on deck and do some sailing. As I head back on deck, I can't help but notice how nicely I've left the cockpit. Notice that the lazy sheet is so beautifully coiled around the winch. The French sailboat's Mayday call from earlier this morning made me think about the procedures I have on board for emergencies. I have written a one-pager on each emergency that I can foresee, such as fire, flood, Mayday call, dismasting, and entering the life raft. By practicing the activities and writing them down, hopefully it will become second nature at the time of crisis. What's the blue line traversing the entire cockpit? Well, that's the traveler line, which unfortunately is continuous, and I've yet to find a better way to stow it than just leaving it on the cockpit sole. Enough of this glass half empty thinking about possible disaster. Let's enjoy the reason we're out here and do some sailing. First, I need to lower the footrest and get in that comfy JPK sailing position. Yes, tillers are much more comfortable than wheels. It may look like I'm steering, but I'm actually letting the autopilot steer, and I'm holding on to the tiller to get a feel for how the conditions are today. I learned this trick from a fellow sailboat racer. Now I reach down and turn the autopilot off and really begin to sail. When you first come on deck, you can be a bit daffy, so this prevents you from making a mistake. Easing the jib car forward after I ease the sheet. I don't claim to be a trimming expert, But for the main, my biggest determinant is looking at the lines coming off the leech to make sure that they're all streaming except the top one streaming and fluttering. And then for the Genoa, I just try to make sure all three parts of the sail look like they're working hard. So the bottom telltales, the middle telltales, and the upper telltales. And so if you saw, first thing I did is I eased the sheet because of the shift, and then I moved the car a bit forward. Now if you want to be picky, I don't really love the fact that it had a little bit more flutter in the leech than I would like. I need to tighten up the leech cord. I just went forward and tightened up the leech cord on the Genoa. And it was just amazing. I've been futzing with it for the last little bit by moving the car forward to try to get more leech tension on it. And then I went forward and just the smallest amount, 1 or 2 centimeters, and boom, the leech stopped fluttering. Also, if I wanted to be picky, I think one more click on the halyard for the Genoa would be nice. All that noise, we're doing 7 knots. Sailing this boat upwind is really pleasurable. I mean, I only have like a 1 meter sea I'm going into, and it's just so stable, yet so responsive. I don't know how both things exist. You know, half of it feels like my laser used to feel, which just you touch it and it comes up and it comes down, and you can really feel like, oh wow, I was too high or too low. Yet at the same time, she sits on rails. Okay, I can't chat with you guys all day. No. I have some navigation to work. I gotta drink something.
I confess, I do spend a lot of time adjusting the sails to try to get that last 1/10 of a knot. But if there's one thing I've read in common of all the articles about sail trim, is to continue to experiment, to play, and see if you can find that extra little bit of speed. In response to having trimmed the Genoa, now it's time for the car to move back. Not an easy task under load. Now I've decided my previous trim was too much, so I decided to ease the sheet an inch or so. Do you know they make winches where you can ease the sail without having to take the sheet off the winch? Pretty convenient. Now, more adjustment of the jib car. Will this ever end? It's through this tinkering I can learn the boat better and try to become a better sailor. When the Genoa is pulling hard, it's near impossible to move the jib car aft. So what am I doing here? I'm using the Kung Fu action grip, which I mentioned previously, made by Carver. This gives me a better strength to hold the line. I'm not sure I'm satisfied with my sail trim efforts, or just frustrated enough that I'll go on and do something else. I find sailing from the leeward side a little bit disconcerting and takes a bit of time to get into the groove. It could be because I'm balanced a different direction or a different perspective of the luff of the Genoa. My broad smile would indicate that I am having a good time.
When you ease the Genoa out, and so it starts becoming a little bit more off the wind, what happens
Is the
top of the sail, I like to think of as 3 parts, you know, top, middle, bottom. The top actually eases off at a faster rate than the bottom. So instinctively you look at the bottom and the middle and you get your trim on and then you're like, wow, the top looks kind of wonky. So how do you fight this twist that naturally comes in a sail when the sheet is eased? Well, you move the car forward. Car forward means it pulls more on the leech, and you can keep that shape. Now, I just love the concept of the in-hauler and all that stuff, but every time I use the in-hauler, what happens is the bottom third of the sail becomes really bulbous looking. What do? Do you just have a really curved bottom of the sail? It doesn't seem to really work that well. Okay, so here's the in-hauler right here, and it basically pulls this sheet inboard, and the in-hauler ring is right there. And so you can imagine if you have a really big load, it's going to pull that inboard. That line then goes to a block right there, which then either side gets pulled on by a line that leads back to the piano. I gotta do some navigation. Gotta go make sure we're not gonna hit anybody.
We all know that a bunch of orcas have been biting the rudders off of sailboats in Spain.
There's a lot of concern about orcas right now, and they are not supposed to be in the area that I'm in, but orcas don't always follow rules. My life raft's ready to go. My radio's ready to be used. So there you go. And when I'm on deck, I'm wearing my life jacket now. Oh, orcas, let me pass. That flat spot there is the most incredible bit of water, pumping water into A Coruña. I just went on the radio and told the passing vessel that we were tracking, hey, I can see you from 3 miles, no problem.
He kindly replied, I can also see you on radar. This is just a good radar test to make sure my boat shows up.
Here's a little coal regs quiz for you, which is the rules for boats interacting. And I'm acting all haughty like I knew this off the top of my head, but I learned it relatively recently. When two boats come together, the entire rules are basically based on boat A, you just keep doing what you're doing, and boat B, get the heck out of the way. As captains is to figure out which one we are in a certain situation and play our role. That whole system gets suspended in reduced visibility. So in fog or other times where you can't see well, where both vessels have to get out of the way. So if you're having a head-on collision with a boat, or you're overtaking, or whatever you thought you're showing somebody your red light and it's their job to get out of the way. Wrong. In reduced visibility, you do your part too. And that can lead to a bit of confusion because which way are people going to turn? Okay, let's go fill up the fuel. Okay, I have the handle for opening up the fuel. I got the fuel, and I got the siphon. I wanted to figure out how much fuel is in diesel 1. 21. And now, we're just at the beginning of getting close to the Spanish coast. Then we're gonna go around the Spanish coast, and we're gonna end up at that last orange circle, which is Vigo. Gail and I are texting back and forth on what the best anchorage is. The easiest one to go to, seriously, is the Nude Beach. It's the first bay in. 4 knots of breeze, as you can see in the background, tortellini, brodo, soup, fog. These are sailboats, yet when you sign up to do a longer distance, you've never not liked to have a bit of extra dinosaur juice on board. Can I sleep? And I've been working up to it. So it was really neat that I was taking really long sleeps. And I don't think I realized the night before how much sleep I'd gotten because I felt great yesterday day. And then today I was taking 40-minute chunks left and right. You know, there was no traffic around and it was a real accomplishment that I could sleep so well.
Any time of day is a good time for a bowl of cereal. And notice, I'm still drinking British milk though I'm in Spain. Here I am, relaxing on the couch, looking at the radar. How am I doing that? Well, B&G has a remote viewer app that lets you access one of the chart plotters. So far, I give it a solid B+. I'm peering out in the fog to try to see this boat that I've just changed course for. Okay, sometimes the dice don't land the way you want them to. The breeze has now officially died, but the sea state is still quite strong, and we're bashing into some waves. Good news, I think it will calm down soon. I'm starting to calculate, estimate, triangulate my arrival time in Vigo. Looks like it'll be sometime before lunch tomorrow. Nap time checklist. First, make sure one alarm is set on iPhone. Second, make sure backup alarm is set on Hockey Puck. Check alarms are active on B&G. Head down, 30 minutes of rest.
Good morning to day 4. Well, that was my 3rd night of sleep on board the boat.
Day 4 has us within striking distance of Vigo, but with no wind. Looks like we're going to be motoring the last bit into port.
What I've been doing is when the sun goes down, I set up the boat for a direction where I'm comfortable for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, that there's nothing that will cause troubles, and then I take a nap. That was not possible for a big portion of this evening because, for starters, the seas were very uncomfortable. There were lots of ships going by, lots of fishing vessels. So, had to make do. And I claimed that it was bumpy, and there was a bit of weather earlier. Look at it now. And I still have some navigation. I'm trying to stay close for orca reasons, but there are a bunch of rock piles I gotta watch out for. Look at that.
Look who popped out of the fog there. Wow.
No AIS, not a great radar return.
The birds on the water made me think. Fishermen use their radar to find the birds, and the birds are nearby fish. I wondered, in the animal kingdom, are birds considered kind of narcs? releasing the location of the fish and hated by all fish? I think I need to return to humanity soon before I go down weird alleys. Very day on the ocean. It has that really cool, wet ocean smell. Got my salopettes, my sailing pants on. I've been told the Spanish coast in this area is dramatic and beautiful, but I think I'm going to have to go on Google to find it, because it's just all fogged in. We just got a small drive-by from some dolphins, which did raise my blood pressure. Thought it might be an orca, but it's not. One of the islands protecting Vigo, I think it's a nature reserve. I think I need a permit to go there. I have about 2 hours of motoring left to go, and the fog is starting to rise, revealing the beauties of Vigo Bay. I like to think back to some of the most special arrivals I've had. Possibly the most special was the first time my parents let me deliver the sunfish to where it went for the winter. And I was a young boy, and I suspect my parents might have been hiding in the bushes. It wasn't a very long sail. It took a few hours because you're going around a point and light air. Another one that stands in my mind is on the old catamaran when we got it, arriving in Rio de Janeiro. That was very special. Or when I was doing a delivery with of my friend's boat. He just bought a new boat, and when we pulled into Malta, and what made Malta and Rio similar was the grandness of the town isn't revealed until you come around a corner. I'm not sure why I find lighthouses so charming, but they really are one of the most beautiful things man has created. This is the anchorage I was going to stop at when I had my original plan. My plan was you can come here any time of day, and if it's windy, you don't have to deal with marina operations in the wind. For a bunch of the bays here in Vigo, you can anchor in them, but right before you come into them are these massive aquaculture things. So my first bay was chosen because it doesn't have aquaculture. I've hailed the marina several times in my portable VHF in Spanish, so now I'm switching to the proper masthead VHF, but I've left the portable on, so there's going to be a large echo. Now I've turned off the portable VHF, bonehead move to leave it on. Hopefully communication will be easier. That annoying sound from the jet ski revving will be a prominent feature of my docking in Vigo. I'm a little tired after my long voyage and frustrated with a slow responding marina. A 200-foot sailboat is tied to the seawall. It's owned by a senior executive at Google. The revving jet ski continues to annoy me while I try to connect with the marina. By the way, after my stay, I realized the marina does offer excellent service. I just caught them at a bad time. The Marineros has finally arrived, and the international language of follow the rib has started and well understood. While watching some of my old video from this trip, on the final morning I noticed I've changed. Some of the sentences I've formed have 3-second breaks between each word. I'm definitely a bit tired. I have installed my PVC pipe, which allows me to remotely control my throttle and gear shifter. Just 100 yards to go. Sometimes they're the toughest, but today, light air, no current, it will go well. I've set myself on the right side of the fairway, so I'll use a little bow thruster to pull the bow over to the port side. My slip is to port of the beige motor cruiser. I'm standing on my tippy toes to try to get a better view into the slip. I'm coming in slowly, and a few taps of the thruster will make it a perfect arrival. Port side of the boat on the catway is the marina helper. Kindly give me a very wide slip. This is not always the case when coming into marina. Unwittingly, I'm frustrating the dockhand because I'm keeping the bow away from the dock while he's trying to grab the bow line. Eventually, I understand his predicament. Like an airline pilot, I'm guided into the slip. I give a big bunch of reverse to prevent hitting the front of the slip. And a final touch of the bow thruster gets the bow close for the dockhand. Now, to impress viewers, the dockhand and gale, I lassoed the cleat all by myself. This was a pretty easy lasso, but lassoing I found to be a very useful skill in many situations.
Muchas gracias.
¿Qué tal? Buen día.
I wonder how much fuel you have left.
40% or so.
Gail's first question was, how much food do I have left?
The picture you sent me, I was very happy to see your face and everything, but you looked exhausted.
When?
You sent me a photo like when you got on sail. Like your face looks sort of yellow.
I made it. Lessons learned, discussed in a future video. We still have some more videos on the technology side, but the season is over. Cyclops is on the hard in Vigo, Spain, waiting for my return for her next adventure.